Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the League One Transfer Roundup. If you do go on to enjoy today's video, please make sure to drop a like on there for me and subscribe to the channel as well. If you are new, can we try and hit 120 likes on today's video? And don't forget to get your thoughts down in the comment section down below. What further business has your League One club still got to do, and what do you believe has been the best bit of business completed over the last 7-8 days? I know this is technically coming out on the Tuesday because obviously we have got midweek fixtures, so it's a match day for a lot of sides. Let me know down below though, how would you assess your club's transfer business on the whole so far? Let's get straight into it then. AFC Wimbledon have had no further incomings over the last 7 days, and after a brilliant result away at Reading, a lot of people probably thinking that they don't need to do any further business. But in terms of departures, we've not really seen anything of any real significance go away from Wimbledon. They've seen a few youngsters go out on loan, but that has been about it. In terms of Charlton Athletic, I don't believe they've brought anybody else in through the door either, and I also want to say that there hasn't been any further departures as well. So we'll move on then to Blackpool FC, who again, I don't believe they've done any further transfer business over the last 7 days. I think we're now in that period where the season started and a lot of clubs are going to be waiting to do them final couple of pieces of transfer business right at the end of the transfer window. We might see a couple of maybe panic buys on deadline day and around that sort of time. We did see a departure out of Blackpool. Midfielder Ryan Finnegan, a 21-year-old, has joined League Two side Walsall on loan for the remainder of the campaign, so they'll be hoping he can go out there, play some regular game time and be the potential long-term replacement for somebody like a Sonny Carey. I'm not so sure if he's a holding midfielder, attacking midfielder. Blackpool fans have to let me know down below. Bolton Wanderers completed the signing of 22-year-old left winger IBRAHIM CISSOKO. He's come in on a loan transfer from Toulouse. Not a player that I think I've heard of before, but I have this very weird feeling in the back of my mind that he might have potentially played in England before. Let me know down below if I am correct there. And they also brought in a 32-year-old goalkeeper Tyler Miller. He's coming on a free transfer from Notts County. Obviously he signed for the Magpies towards the back end of last season when Alex Bass picked up a hamstring injury, I believe. Didn't play. They chose to play 37-year-old goalkeeping coach Sam Slocum over him. I think he played in midweek in the cup match. I'm pretty sure Bolton, did they have a high scoring game? Was it 3-3, or am I thinking of a different side? I'm not 100% sure, but he played in that one, and I guess if he did concede 3 goals, then it's not a particularly great debut. In terms of departures out of Bolton, I don't think we've seen anything further from that point of view. So we'll move on then to Bradford City, my team, who yesterday at the time of you seeing this completed the signing of 31-year-old attacking midfielder Nick Powell. I've done a full breakdown on this transfer over on the main channel SHD, but he's obviously come in on a free transfer from Stockport County. Again, a lot of experience coming into our side. We already have a number of players who can play in them 2 attacking midfield positions. You think Anthony Sarcevic, Bobby Poynton, George Lapsley, Tyreek Wright. We've also got Clark Adore who can play in there. I feel like I'm missing another very obvious one off the top of my head. Will Swan's played there in pre-season. If we're desperate, Stephen Humphries obviously could play there as well. But Nick Powell, there's no doubt in his talent and ability, an absolutely sensational footballer, but massively struggled with injuries at Stockport County. Just 3 league starts for him last campaign, 7 total league appearances. I think played 9 games in all competitions, but simply needs to go and play football, and I think he'll do that at Bradford City. Be a bit more of a bit part player for us, because we know Anthony Sarcevic normally picks up injuries as well. So as long as they're not both injured at the same time, we should be pretty good on that point of view. And again, we've still not seen any further departures out of Bradford City. Obviously Paul Huntington stopped training with the club a couple of weeks ago now, but there's just been nothing on a permanent basis leaving. The likes of Tyler Smith, Adam Wilson are the most likely players to depart, but could you maybe even see somebody like an Alex Patterson leave the club? He's only played 3 or 4 minutes of competitive football so far this campaign, but I would say there's still more business to be done from a Bradford City point of view. Burton Albion completed the signing of 22-year-old left-back Sebastian Reva, and he's come in on a loan transfer from Wrexham. As we know, Wrexham have got about 50 first-team players on their books, so it does make sense for him to go out on loan, play some regular first-team football, and then either Wrexham, because of his age, can sell him, because he'll be 23, then that's a great age to be selling somebody, or he might potentially be good enough to be that future James McLean replacement. In terms of departures out of Burton, I don't think we've seen anything too significant from that point of view, so we'll move on then to Cardiff City, who still are yet to do any further transfer business, just the one signing for them so far. In terms of departures out of Cardiff, we've not seen anything further from that point of view, so we'll move on then to Doncaster Rovers. It's been a while since we've seen them be active in the transfer window. Obviously they brought in Charlie Crew, but apart from that, it has been a long time, and I don't believe there's been any further departures out of Doncaster either. So we'll move on then to Exeter City, who I think again are in a very similar position. They haven't completed any signings over the last 7 days, and I don't believe we've seen any further departures out of the Grecians either. In terms of Huddersfield Town, obviously very busy transfer window on the whole, but they seem to be pretty much done from that point of view. They might bring in another winger to replace the injured Mikael Miller, but apart from that, I can't see them doing too much more business now. And as we know, a former Huddersfield man has recently signed for a new, not a new League One club, a current League One side. We did see a departure though in Reece Healy. He is a 30-year-old striker who has joined Barrow on loan for the remainder of the campaign. Barrow needed some experience at the top end of the pitch, needed a goal scorer as well, and I think it makes sense really for Huddersfield to get a little percentage of his wages off of the wage bill. In terms of Luton and Orient, I still believe they'll probably do at least one or two more transfers. I did miss last week the signing of 19-year-old left winger Lamar Gordon. He's come in on an undisclosed fee from Fulham. That was done last week, but I did miss that one. I think that's a smart option for them. They need some more depth in their winger positions with the injuries that they have recently picked up, so I think that could prove to be a smart addition. And with it being on a permanent deal as well, I'm pretty sure he's coming from the same club as Ollie O'Neill. If he can turn out somewhere as decent as him, then they've got two good options on that left-hand side. And in terms of departures out of Orient, I don't think we've seen anything further from that point of view. Lincoln City yesterday completed the signing of 20-year-old striker Francis Okoronkwo. He's come in on a loan transfer from Everton's under-21s. I think I'm right in saying spent time last season on loan with Salford City. Pretty sure he scored against Bradford City in our fixture back in March, I want to say. They've got a lot of options at the top end of the pitch to do Lincoln. You think James Collins, Freddie Draper, Rob Street, they're three very good options for League One level. They've now got Okoronkwo there as well. They're playing a 4-2-3-1, so they're kind of having to shoe on a lot of these players in. Rico Hackett has largely played as a striker, but I think has been recently playing as a left winger for Lincoln City. So they've certainly got options at the top end of the pitch, and obviously Everton have not sent him out on loan to not play football. So how their manager, is it Michael Scubal, is going to manage to piece all them puzzles together? Is that the correct saying? I don't know, but that's why I'm not the Lincoln manager, I guess. Luton Town, I don't believe, have done any further transfer business over the last 7 days. Obviously, they've done a lot of business so far. They've largely recruited for a back three. I've seen a lot of their fans wanting to play a back four. They were very poor against Bradford City, and that Gideon Kudu, a 20-year-old striker who's coming from West Ham, he looked pretty decent, scored a nice goal on Saturday, but apart from that, a lot of their signings, just especially Jerry Yates, for example, just doing absolutely nothing at the weekend. But one game obviously doesn't define a player. There hasn't been any further departures away from the Hatters. In terms of Mansfield Town, they completed a match day signing in the way of 23-year-old striker Max Dickov. He's come in on a free transfer from Brentford. Obviously, they've had a couple of injuries at the top end of the pitch to the likes of Dom Dwyer and Reece Oates. You can't just then rely on Will Evans as good as he is, so it did make sense to bring in another option there. The future about Lee Gregory is still unknown. Obviously, he's not signed a contract, he's not registered, but if his injury sorts itself out, then I think that would be great news for Mansfield Town, and I don't believe there's been any further departures away from the Stags. But Liam Roberts, for me, probably their signing of the summer. He looks like a real good coup. In terms of Northampton Town, they've done a lot of business over this transfer window, but just a lot of very, very bang average, a lot of poor quality coming in through the door. I do have a lot of concerns about them. They did re-announce the signing, well, not re-announce signing, they signed, or re-signed is the correct terminology that I'm looking for, Terry Taylor. He is a 24-year-old midfielder who's coming on loan from Charlton. I think that's a good signing, but central midfield is probably their strongest position in Dean Campbell and Tyrese Forner. It's attackers that the Cobblers need. They need to bring in at least two strikers and then a real good winger option to come in and play, because they're just really lacking firepower at this moment in time. There hasn't been any further transfer departures away from Northampton Town. In terms of Peterborough, they yesterday completed the signing of 22-year-old central midfielder Ben Woods. He's come in on an undisclosed fee from Accrington Stanley. I think personally that is an absolutely brilliant signing in my opinion. Yes, they've already got some good quality in that midfield in Archie Collins, Brandon Kayler, and he's obviously going to be injured for the next couple of weeks. They needed to improve in other positions. They need some more firepower at the top end of the pitch, some more defenders as well. Midfield, I feel like, was one of their stronger positions, even though the quality in their squad is pretty poor. But Ben Woods was outstanding at Accrington last season. I would have loved him at Bradford City, but obviously we opted with Jensen Metcalfe, who's proved to be a brilliant signing so far. They also brought in a 23-year-old central midfielder Matthew Garbett. He's come in on a free transfer from from NAC Breda over in Holland. So I can't say I know much about him. I'm pretty sure he's either Australian or New Zealandian. Yeah, he's from the New Zealand and also France as well. Don't really know much about him, but he's 23, so he'll either turn out very good or very poorly, as a lot of the Peterborough signings tend to do. They very rarely sign bang average. They also brought in 34-year-old centre-back Tom Lees. He's by far and away the oldest player in their squad by about 10 years. He's come in on a free transfer from Huddersfield, obviously, with the injury news to Sam Hughes. They needed another body in at centre-back because the likes of David Cagby were absolutely awful for League One level. I still have a lot of concerns about Peterborough. They still need to bring in another 3 or 4 players, in my opinion, to come in and start. They need some more quality in that squad because they have had an awful start to the campaign so far. And there hasn't been any further departures away from the posh. In terms of Plymouth Argyle, they brought in a 23-year-old centre-back Alex Mitchell. He's come in on a loan transfer from Charlton Athletic. I don't think played that much football last campaign, but Plymouth needed to bring in some defenders. They could also do with another striker as well. They've had a hopeless start to the campaign. I know they've had not the easiest of fixtures so far, but again, they were really poor on Saturday and conceded some really sloppy goals. So I think that could prove to be a smart addition for them. And obviously, it doesn't help with Brendan Weirdo getting himself sent off, despite that seeming, on the face value of things, a pretty harsh red card. I don't believe there's been any further departures away from home park. So move on then to Port Vale, who haven't done any further incomings over the last 7 days. And we've also not seen any further departures either. In terms of Reading, they have brought in 32-year-old centre-back Derek Williams. He's come in on a free transfer from Atlanta over in America. I don't really know much about him, but they've conceded a fair few goals so far, Reading, and their only goal they've scored was a 35-yard screamer from Lewis Wing. So they still need to get some more bodies in through the door. They need to hope that Paddy O'Connor is going to return from his injury very soon, because defensively they have conceded far too many goals, but they'll be hoping that could prove to be a smart addition for them. In terms of departures away from Reading, I don't think we've seen anything further from that point of view. So we'll move on then to Rotherham United, who have brought in 19-year-old centre-forward Martin Sheriff. He's come in on a loan transfer from Everton's under-21s. Can't say I know much about him, but obviously with the rumours that Sam Nombe is going to be out for the next couple of months with Keona Tete picking up an injury as well, I do think bringing in another forward was the right thing to do. But a 19-year-old on loan from Everton's under-21s, he's got to come in and hit the ground running. In terms of departures away from Rotherham, we've not seen anything further from that point of view. So we'll move on then to Stevenage, who brought in, I think we've already talked about Ghassan Ahadme. We spoke about that last week, I'm pretty sure. So we'll speak about Jovan Malcolm, a 22-year-old striker who's come in from Gateshead for an undisclosed fee. Again, don't really know much about him, but Gateshead fans seem pretty disappointed about his departure. They've got a lot of young attacking talent, do Stevenage. Yes, they've got the experience in Jordan Roberts and Jamie Reeds, but they've recruited a lot of younger players in those forward positions, and I'm interested to see how they do develop to go along the likes of Dan Kemp and Jake Young already at the football club. And I don't believe Stevenage have seen any further departures. In terms of Stockport County, I don't think they've done any further transfer business. Actually, they did, didn't they? They brought in a 21-year-old centre-back Brad Hills. He's returned to the club on a permanent basis. Not a club record fee, but I think it's around £1 million, which could rise up to £2 million. So obviously Stockport splashing the cash once again. They're not shy of spending money, and that is obviously a great sign. He was very good at Accrington, I'm pretty sure he was at. Then obviously went to Stockport in the second half of last season and did very well. They've now brought him back on a permanent basis. They've spent a lot of money this summer of Stockport, and they'll be hoping that they can achieve that promotion. But we must not forget that obviously they got a decent fee in for Oluwafe. They got some money in for Sam Hughes as well, and obviously they did see the departure of Nick Powell. They terminated his contract. His first season he was pretty good with Stockport, but second season just could not keep himself fit. So hopefully as a Bradford City fan, we can keep him out of the physio room and on the football pitch for us. Wigan Athletic haven't done any further transfer business in terms of incomings, and I don't believe we've seen any further departures either. So we'll move on then finally to Wycombe Wanderers, who I think again, I don't believe they've brought anybody else in through the door over the last 7 days. But obviously we did see the big departure of Richard Coney, 22-year-old striker, scored loads of goals last season, has moved to QPR for around £3 million, but I think that could be potentially rising up to £5 million. QPR have signed very well in this transfer window. They've already got the likes of Dembele and Chair. Now they've brought in Poku and Richard Coney, two very good additions. They have got a very good up front four, and obviously he did well with Wycombe, but Mike Dodds just wasn't getting the best out of him, so it makes sense with a year left on his contract. From where they've brought him in from to where they've sold him to, for the money they've sold him to as well. That is great business by Wycombe Wanderers. So fair play to the people involved with their recruitment. They got that one absolutely spot on. They made the club a load of money there. But anyway, I'm going to leave it there then for today's video. If you have enjoyed, please make sure to drop a like on there for me and subscribe to the channel as well. If you are new, can we try and hit 120 likes as I mentioned at the start of today's video? And don't forget to get your thoughts in down in the comment section down below. What do you believe has been the best piece of business completed over the last 7 days, and how would you assess your clubs at transfer window so far? Thank you all for watching. Have a great rest of your day. For me, signing of the week is definitely Brad Hills to Stockport County. I'll see you very soon though for another one.